What's up, guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 2007 BMW M6. Up front is a 5.0-liter V10, and down below is a 7-speed automatic transmission. Now, I'm super excited to be driving this M6 because, well, it's a V10, and anytime I have a V10 here on my schedule, I am a very happy boy, and I'm excited to share that with you today. But if you would like to submit your own vehicle, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. But let's get back to that 5-liter V10 making about 500 horsepower. Well, the M5 and the M6 of this generation were the only two cars to get this engine from BMW. This engine is the S85 designation, and it is a tremendous V10. It sounds great. Now, this does have an aftermarket exhaust on it, but it sounds great. It moves great. And it's just friggin' cool that they did a V10 M6. This was the peak engine size for BMW. After this, they started downsizing to the 4.4-liter turbo engines, and that's what we still see here today. Having a V10 under my right foot is exquisite. However, it's not without worry. If you know anything about these engines, rod bearings are probably at the forefront of your vocabulary. Now, they're not as big of a deal as you see online. If you properly maintain the vehicle and you always let it warm up, you always let it cool down, they're gonna be fine. You have to look after them, and they will treat you fine. It's the people that just hop in this car, rev it to red line, and drive it immediately that end up getting into trouble. Yes, you can do that with your Camry or Corolla, not really the M6 V10. And so that's where a lot of engines start failing. The rod bearings do go bad. Like I said, paired to it is a 7-speed automatic transmission. It is an automated manual. It's known as the SMG, and some people love them, some people hate them. Here's the brass tacks on it. At slow speeds, driving it around town, as I'm doing right now for this talking portion of the video, I hate this transmission. It feels broken most of the time. It's shifting really weird and just doesn't feel right. So that's where a lot of the complaints come from. Driving this car to Jewel Osco is not a very pleasurable experience at slow speeds. But when you get on it, and when it starts shifting on its own and you have it in the high intensity mode, you quickly understand what this transmission means and what this transmission is. That's its sweet spot. It's someone that can only run 100 miles a minute. It doesn't understand rest time. It doesn't understand vacation. So that's where you end up getting into trouble. But when you let the transmission actually sing for itself, it sings a very happy tune. Now, they did offer these in manual. However, they only made 700 manuals. They were only sold here in North America, and that is out of 14,000 of these being made, shared between the coupe and convertible, only 700 of which were manual. And so, very, very rare. I don't think I'll ever see one or drive one, but they do in fact exist. Last but not least, of course, the M6 is rear-wheel drive. So how does it feel to drive the M6? Well, visibility is not one of its strong suits. It does have decently big A-pillars and not much going on out back. Steering is nice and tight, though. The handling and ride experience is exactly what I would want out of a vehicle in this segment, which I love. And that power is amazing when you're on it, but like I mentioned with the transmission, it is a little clunky around town. I will never not love the sound of a V10. Oh, that brutal scream at the beginning. Whoo! There ain't nothing better, ladies and gents. There ain't nothing better. An 8,000 RPM red line ain't too shabby either. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have two physical gauges. Off to the left is my speedometer and fuel, and off to the right is my tachometer and oil temperature. Now, that oil temperature is what you're going to want to take a look at just under 210 is fully warmed up, and that will allow you to start driving it like God intended V10s to be driven. On the steering wheel, on the left, we have our volume, voice commands, and phone options, and off to the right, we have our skip track, favorite button, and M mode. So M mode is going to be a customizable mode that will allow you to basically have a custom sport mode and unleash that full 500 horsepower, because in non-sport mode, it actually limits you to the upper 300 horsepower, just under 400 horsepower. So very, very cool to see that on the steering wheel. We also do have paddle shifters around the back. Off to the left, we have a climate control vent, headlight switches, gauge dimmer switch, and head-up display information button for that head-up display that's up above the gauge cluster. I like it. It's actually pretty colorful, especially for 2007, so I don't mind it. And moving on to the door, we just have our power mirrors and power windows. Moving into the center, we do have a infotainment system. This is very, very early iDrive systems, and it is not very good. First of all, where the climate controls are coming from, like the vents, are ran through the screen. There's some climate controls in the screen, and I absolutely hate when car makers do that. I think this system is really clunky. The scroll wheel that you use is very clunky, so I'm just not a big fan of any of this. Down below that, we have our hazard switch and central locking, along with 2 climate control vents, and then our climate controls themselves. We do get dual zone, which is very nice to see, especially in a coupe. Fan speed in the center, but like I said, if you want to adjust which vents it comes out of, you have to use the screen for that, and I just don't particularly like that. Then we do have a CD and DVD player. Very interesting and very 2000s. Then moving down in the center, we have our heated seats, tire pressure warning, parking sensors, and of course, our cigarette lighter and ashtray. Then we have the shifter and the shifter area. So to the left, we have our power button that will unleash the full 500 horsepower, as well as our DSC off and EDC mode. The shifter's in the center. Now, this is an SMG shifter, which is a little bit wonky, a little bit different than other shifters, because there is no park. In order to park the vehicle, you put it over into neutral and pull the parking brake. A little bit different than a lot of other sports cars, so just something to note there. And down below, we have 6 different transmission modes. However, you can only access 5 with the traction control on. So the 6th mode is no traction control. So just a word to the wise, be careful in that one. To the right, we have our selector dial for the iDrive system, and I absolutely hate this with a passion. I don't think it feels very good. It feels like there's a rubber band stuck in the spokes, if that makes any sense, because it does have a kind of slight rebound to it. And we do have menu and voice commands down below, but it's really nothing special. Which is funny because the selector dial that later replaced this in the 2010s was phenomenal and one of my favorites. So BMW did a complete 180. Now, could attach a cup holder, so at the end of the day, the M6 fails, to no one's surprise. Now we gotta talk about the seats. The seats are also finished in this lovely, lovely, lovely red color, shared with the rest of the interior, and I've been pretty comfortable in them. They are a little bit sportier than the regular 6 Series, of which I have driven a 6 Series convertible, and so they definitely feel sportier than that, but I'm still a big guy, and I fit fine, so no complaints. Where I probably will complain is for the back seats. So let's hop into the back and do a back seat review. All right, so last time I was in the back of a 6 Series like this, I didn't have a roof to worry about because it was a convertible. I now have a roof to worry about, and boy, am I worrying about it. I do have pop-out cup holders right here, which look very large. It still won't fit the big friggin' bottle. So that's still a fail, but it looked semi-promising. Back here is terrible. I don't want to be back here for any more time than I have to be. It's very warm back here. There's no space back here. And, well, it's just unpleasant. So that's it. It has back seats, by definition, but I do not want to be in them. I'm going to enjoy the rest of this morning. This nice breezy weather, actually, and not roast to death in the back of an M6. So I'm going to do that, and we're going to hop around and take a look at the trunk. Right around the back of the M6, little trunk release here. There we go. Pop it up like that, and there we go. Obviously, this tarp isn't factory, but I do have to say, it's a pretty good-sized trunk for the caliber of car that this is. Coupes, normally to me, always signify small trunk space. That's not the case here in the M6. This was made for business executives to take on their holiday weekend trips. And so there's actually a door in the center where you could fit skis all the way through the car, which is really nice to see. Pretty typical of executive series vehicles from Europe, because, you know, obviously going to the Alps and whatnot is a very popular thing to do, so they have that. But very cool to see the rear trunk space of an M6. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and I love the look of the M6. I'm not a big coupe guy, I will say. I prefer the M5 every single day of the week in terms of looks. However, I do think that the M6 still looks good. Something can look good without being my favorite. And I think that it just aged really well. I think it aged pretty gracefully where they might not have been stone cold killers in 2007, but here in 2024, I don't think they're half bad. And I like seeing that. With all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think finally driving my first ever BMW M6 V10 here on the Shooting Cars channel? Well, it's been a mostly positive experience. Okay, I won't say if it's a positive or negative experience. Here's the brass tacks. Driving it around town, this car is awful. I hate it. It's uncomfortable with the shifts. It's not great to see out of, but most of all, I am just being teased all day by that V10. I want to let it scream. I want to let it do what it was meant to do, which was run freely with the wind in its hairs and belting at the top of its lungs, as V10s are so good at. But I also know that I have to maintain this vehicle. It has to become a labor of love if I want this car to operate thoroughly. And I know a lot of people just aren't interested in taking that time and effort. This car is so much labor for so infrequent fruit. But when you do finally pluck that fruit off the tree, it might be the sweetest of all. All of your pain is very handsomely rewarded. And for some people, that's how they enjoy living their lives. I used to own rotary engines. I know that lifestyle all too well. And it does make you feel alive. It's like gambling. You lose more often than when you win, but when you win, oh boy, there ain't nothing better than winning some scratch on some ponies. And that's exactly what this car does. It's a brutal fight. It's a fist fight. It's a knockout, drag-out fight. But that just makes victory taste so much sweeter. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Charlie for letting me take out his BMW M6. Charlie was absolutely awesome to work with. Very enthusiastic, very fun, very knowledgeable about these vehicles as well. And he maintains it. He keeps up with the maintenance. He takes it to EP3, which is a wonderful shop. He does the legwork, and so because of that, he gets to enjoy the sweet, sweet V10 day in and day out. Charlie's one of the best, and I appreciate him very, very much. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.